Okay, let's review graphing using intercepts. Our first equation, 4x minus 6x equals negative 24. Remember, when we graph intercepts, our x-intercept is the point where y equals 0, and our y-intercept is the point where x equals 0. So what we can do is put a 0 in for y. I think this is supposed to be a y. Let's change that to a y. If we put a 0 in for y and solve our equation for x, sometimes we just cover it up and solve for x. That's going to give us 4x equals negative 24. Divide by 4, you get x equals negative 6. So our x-intercept is negative 6, 0, which would be over here. If we put a 0 in for x, four times 0 is 0, so negative 6y equals negative 24. Divide by negative 6. We get a y-intercept of 4. Okay, and the little trick is when you plug a 0 in for x, sometimes you can just cover up the x and then solve that equation quickly in your head. But let's graph our y-intercept of 0, 4, and then there's your line. Okay, let's look at the second example. If x equals 0, we can solve that equation for y. And we end up with y equals 2. So here's our y-intercept. If x equals 0, or I'm sorry, if y equals 0, we're going to put a 0 in for y. 2 times 0 is 0. So negative 4 equals x. There's our x-intercept, and there's our graph.